Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's do another new video here. This one yet again based on one of your new suggestions. This one having to do with a creature that may not be actually a cryptid. Instead, it may be a real life animal, something that has been around here in the US for a long time, but it is still a link to another real life animal around the world and could also be a link to so many other cryptid sightings here in the US. In fact, when I was looking at the information about the other cryptid sightings, it made sense. The idea that this animal could in turn be misinterpreted for so many of the other famous cryptids here in the US. More on that here in a minute. You'll see exactly why it makes sense. But you're looking at a representation of it now. Has a pretty unique name too. It's known as the Nape. So let's go ahead and let's talk about all the fascinating information associated with this mysterious cryptid-like animal. So what is this Nape? Well, first off, the name itself is an acronym. It stands for North American Ape. Nape, in other words. So instead of, let's say, having an ape in Africa or other parts of the world involving rainforests or variations of some of those locations too, in this case, this creature is found here in the United States. So how about that? Imagine having a chimp-like primate, but here in the US. If you wanted to know exactly where, it's still pretty broad, but you would have to go towards here, somewhere in the American Midwest area, or towards the Southeast area. So those of you that are looking at this map and you see yourself, at least within these sections, there's a good chance, who knows, you may come across this Nape. As far as its physical characteristics, it's this. It's pretty much just your average chimp or other small ape-like creature. That's it. No real other variations for it. Nothing else like in terms of extended claws or wings or other types of physical attributes that are different from, let's say, any other ape out there in this world. No, just take your average chimp or ape-like chimp from any other part of the world, place it here in the US, and that's essentially what you have here. In fact, the theory is this as to why they're here. Apparently, they've been here this entire time. So ever since the American colonization days, and of course even before that, when you have Native Americans here and so on, all this time period, this has been a creature, a natural creature that has grown up here in the American swamplands and the American forests. So any of those locations, that's essentially where this creature dwells. And again, that makes perfect sense too, because as much as people have moved around the U.S., there is still so much swampland, so much forests that are obviously claimed as territory, but otherwise are uninhabited by people. Instead, they have pretty much just their natural state for who knows how long when it comes to this. So the fact that this thing could excel within that location and maybe every now and then just be seen by a person, a tourist, an explorer, anything along those lines, that makes sense. There could be clans of these Napes that are out there in those swamplands/forests, and they'll be perfectly fine, perfectly happy just living as is. It's kind of a good thing too, because apparently people that have come across these Napes, they are considered very violent. Now, I wouldn't say that it's more along the lines of them being vicious or something like that. No, I immediately picture it being more territorial. The idea that you have something like this, if you look at anything involving like your average chimp or your primates and apes from other parts of the world, they have clans. They have, for lack of a better term, families, and they're very protective of them. They want to make sure that nothing happens to them, and they also want to make sure that no other type of family or clan interferes with them. And then that's when it does happen, that's where they have those fierce but quick battle. So I totally imagine it's the same situation here with these Napes. If they see somebody coming across their area, then naturally they'll start interacting in a harsh manner to make sure they can get this intruder out of their location. Plus, there's this idea that they've been here the whole time. They may actually be a descendant of a creature called the Dryopithecus, which was an extinct group of semi-erect apes, apparently apes that lived around a long time period in Africa, Asia, and Europe. And so these may actually be ancestors of those creatures. Somehow they found their way over to the North American lands, who knows how far back when, and then they just settled. They just settled there, and they just lived there as is. Now, as far as the indications that this could be misinterpreted as some of the other cryptids, there's this. The fact that it's here in the U.S., it looks like a chimp, maybe even just slightly larger than that. Smaller than an ape, but larger than a chimp. And the fact that it's found, as I mentioned earlier, in swamplands and forests, it may be the reason why sightings such as the skunk ape, or maybe even the Honey Island swamp monster, or maybe even the folk monster, which I've talked about as well, and then maybe even devil monkeys and so on, maybe even Bigfoot/Sasquatches themselves, and so those could all be misinterpretations of this Nape. People see all of a sudden out in a region here in the U.S. where there normally wouldn't be obviously any kind of chimps, primates, apes, and so on. They look out there and all of a sudden they see this scurrying about. They see it jumping between trees or running upright in a quick fashion. Again, attacking, as I mentioned earlier, almost in a violent manner. And it happens to be, let's say, in a region that's associated with either the folk monster or the skunk ape and so on. Then you have something like this that could easily, people would say, there it is. It's there again. It's the skunk ape. When in fact, it could actually be the Nape itself. Doesn't that make sense too? If you have something like this happening quick as a flash, having something as far as this creature making its disappearance, and you got to believe that it's well camouflaged, the way it moves and acts, that it would be a surprise coming across it. It would probably be itself as surprised as you are that all of a sudden you're in its vicinity. Well, in those quick moments, all you can see is just a few seconds, and then bam, that's when they're being misinterpreted as all those other cryptids I was mentioning earlier, especially if they're moving in a bipedal manner as they're moving from point A to point B. Again, that makes perfect sense. In fact, Nape tracks were discovered in Decatur, Illinois back in 1962, and who knows how those were misinterpreted towards other areas, towards other cryptids. And so the debate continues. Is this truly a physical creature in of its own? Is it a descendant of something else involving a long lost set of apes? Is it truly some of the cryptids that I was mentioning earlier? Again, it's no known specimen has been caught, but at least those are the theories associated with it. But if anybody has any more info, anything else I might have missed, then please post those comments below. Again, those of you there in the sections involving the Midwest and the Southeast, if you have more local info, maybe more local sightings, and who knows, maybe you might see one too as far as these Napes. Love to hear what your comments are too. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care.